Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Welcome to the City of Muskegon City Commission Meeting for October 23rd, 2012. We'd like to start with George Monroe from Evanston Avenue Baptist Church leading us in prayer, and we will follow that with the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Monroe.
Shall we pray? Our dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity that we can gather here, Lord. We thank you for our mayor and our manager and our commissioners, Lord, that you protect them at all times. Now just be with us and be with this meeting, Lord, that the decisions that will be made to be the right decisions. I'll give you all the praise in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Monroe. Well, I'm not going to sit yet, and maybe the commission shouldn't either, because we have the 2012 Employee Service Awards.
We do.
And, but we have to have roll call first. Why don't you do that, and then I'll start talking.
Vice Mayor Spataro?
Here.
Commissioner German?
Here.
Commissioner Waringel?
Here.
Commissioner Turnquist?
Here.
Commissioner Markowski?
Here.
Mayor Gowan?
Here?
Commissioner Hood?
Here.
Now can I?
Yes, you may.
Okay, great. We are going to be recognizing our employees with service awards this evening for their years of service. And I will be calling employees up to the podium and presenting them with a certificate. And I would invite the commission, our city attorney and city manager to join us up front so that we can express our gratitude to the great work that these individuals provide for the citizens of the city. Ladies and gentlemen. Now, in recognition for 5 years of dedicated service to the city of Muskegon, Dewana Thompson. Ann Cummings for 5 years of dedicated service. Mike Franczyk, in recognition of 5 years of dedicated service. Liz Parker, in recognition of 5 years of dedicated service. Jason Bowes, in recognition of 10 years of dedicated service. Stephen Sherrod, in recognition of 10 years of dedicated service. Maria Deephouse, in recognition of 10 years of dedicated service. Hey, didn't I grow up with you? Howard Usher. Kenneth Grant, in recognition of 15 years of dedicated service. And not to be outdone, Derek Smith, in recognition of 15 years. Linda Potter, 20 years of dedication. Laura Heishu, in recognition of 30 years of dedication. Daryl Hoxton.
Yeah.
In recognition of 30 years. And Robert Hartman for 35 years of dedicated service. And one more hand of applause for these dedicated individuals and the service they provide. Madam Clerk, the consent agenda, please.
Approval of minutes, City Clerk, summary request to approve minutes of the October 8th Commission Work Session Meeting and the October 9th City Commission Meeting. Staff recommendation, approval of the minutes. Second reading, eliminate on-street parking prohibition during winter months. City Manager, summary request to amend Chapter 92, Article 2 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Muskegon to repeal Section 8.31, which prohibited parking on the street between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. on any day between the dates of November 15th and April 15th, or any other time when snow removal is necessary. Staff recommendation to approve the ordinance amendment. West Michigan Metropolitan Transportation Planning Program, West Plan dues, fiscal year 2013, October 1st through September 30th, 2013. City Manager, summary request to approve the City of Muskegon's portion of the West Plan dues payable to West Michigan Shoreline Regional Development Commission. This agency determines projects and distributes federal transportation funds. Staff recommendation to approve this request. Polling place accessibility improvement grant. City Clerk, summary request. The Michigan Department of State has issued a grant in the amount of $48,660 to the city to make various improvements to polling locations for accessibility. Polling locations are currently located in city buildings and school buildings. Before actual repairs are made, agreements will need to be signed authorizing the building to be used as a polling location for 6 years. Staff recommendation to approve the agreements with a condition that we secure 6-year agreements for use of the buildings as a polling location. U.S. Environmental Protection Agency grant submittal, planning economic development. Summary request. The site assessment grants that the City of Muskegon has received through the United States Environmental Protection Agency and the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality have been invaluable in assisting the development in our community. Unfortunately, the current U.S. EPA site assessment funds have nearly been exhausted. However, we would like to apply for the 2012 U.S. EPA Hazardous Substance and Petroleum Brownfield Assessment Grant. The application is due November 19, 2012. Envirologic Technologies, Inc., out of Kalamazoo, our current U.S. EPA grant manager, has once again agreed to prepare the grant on the City of Muskegon's behalf with assistance from our staff. The city will apply for both hazardous substance and petroleum brownfield assessment funds. The city will go through an RFP process for environmental consultants if we are approved for the grants. Staff recommendation to approve the resolution, authorize the mayor and clerk to sign. Links Network, request for permit under Metro Act, engineering, summary request. Approve the request for permit from the Links Group and authorize the mayor to sign the unilateral permit form. Staff recommendation to approve the request for a permit to install fiber optics in the city's right-of-way, terrace, and clay area. Amendment to the zoning ordinance, planning economic development, summary request. Staff initiated request to amend section 1504 of the zoning ordinance, amend the preamble of the YPUD, Waterfront Industrial Plan Unit Development Districts, to modify dimensional requirements on new principal buildings. Staff recommendation to approve the zoning ordinance amendment. Committee recommendation. The Planning Commission recommended approval of the request at their October 11, 2012 meeting by unanimous decision. Amendment to the zoning ordinance, planning economic development, summary request. Staff initiated request to amend section 1504 of the zoning ordinance to allow manufacturing when associated with port activity as a U.S. permitted in YPUD, Waterfront Industrial Plan Unit Development Districts. Staff recommendation to approve the zoning ordinance amendment. Committee recommendation. The Planning Commission recommended approval of the request at their October 11, 2012 meeting by a unanimous decision. Liquor license request, Unruly Brewing Company, LLC, 360 West Western. City Clerk. Summary request. The Liquor Control Commission is seeking local recommendation on a request from Unruly Brewing Company, LLC, for a new microbrewer license and a small winemaker license located at 360 West Western Avenue. Staff recommendation, approval.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Commissioners, you have heard the consent agenda as presented. Are there any items that you would like to have removed for further discussion before we proceed? I would like to have item B removed. Yes. May we have a citizen that would like to speak to that issue? Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Your Honor. I would move that we approve the consent agenda as read, except for item B, Baker.
Second.
It has been moved by the Vice Mayor, seconded by Commissioner Hood to approve the consent agenda as read minus item B. Any discussion? If not, roll call, please.
Commissioner Waringo?
Yes.
Commissioner Turnquist?
Yes.
Commissioner Markowski?
Yes.
Mayor Gowron?
Yes.
Commissioner Hood?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Spataro?
Yes.
Commissioner German?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Vice Mayor, could you item B on the block for discussion for us?
I would move that we approve the elimination of the on-street parking prohibition during the winter months.
Second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Spataro and seconded by Commissioner Waringo to eliminate on-street parking prohibition during the winter months. We do have a citizen that would like to speak to this issue first. Morning Bear, if you would go to the podium and give your name and address, please.
Hi, I live at 529 Houston. My first name is Morning, last name Bear. I'm not necessarily against this decision if you're going to enforce snow removal, and that includes the 130 lots in my community, because what you're creating when the cars are not up on the terraces or in the yards, which I agree do not look nice, is the snowplow trucks are going to come down the middle of the street, and since no one shovels their walks, except for very few of us, our children are going to have to walk in the middle of the street to get to school. It's already bad enough when it snows. We have seniors that have to stand out when the whole street is plowed. They have to stand in the street in the winter to wait for a bus. Our children have to walk on the side of the street to get to school. So now we're going to have the middle plowed and our children in the middle of the street. I think it's a public safety hazard unless you approve to enforce snow removal on all of the sidewalks. They have to go together. And I understand you have 130 lots just in my neighborhood. How about get proactive, start selling them off to the adjoining properties for $1 so you're no longer responsible for them. Set up a team to get rid of them. Then the people who own them can shovel them. But until you enforce complete snow removal throughout the city, this is a public hazard. That's all I got to say.
Okay, thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Well, we're going to give it a whirl and see how we can make it work for the first time with this coming season, I believe. But continue to, give us input and see how things, are going. We'll work with you. Right.
I'll call it the new downtown Muskegon.
But remember what we're actually, looking to do is our snow removal basically has been happening after 6 a.m. As it is. And the big issue has been people parking willy-nilly even in other people's yards, so this takes away that issue. But we're dealing with a lot of people, as you said, they just don't take care of business.
And they're not going to move their cars for the shovel. They just don't care.
Well, we'll see about moving their cars. Vice Mayor?
Thank you. I think we've talked about that issue, but the speaker did bring up another item. I just want people to know that the city does have, if it's a city-owned lot and it's unbuildable, it is available to their neighbors at $1. So that program's been in place for a very long time. They would go through the planning department. So if there is a vacant lot next to you and you're interested in seeing if it's available, contact the city planning department. And like I said, unbuildable lots are priced at $1. So that program is actually existing. And there have been a number of people who have combined their lots so that their house is now on a buildable lot by taking advantage of that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Could you repeat that? Buildable lot?
Unbuildable.
Unbuildable.
Right. Any further discussion by the commission? If not, roll call. Oh, I'm sorry.
So not necessarily additional discussion, but just a comment. I do want to remind people that we do normally learn from example, and so that does require that those of us who are willing to make sure that we do shovel our lots and offer assistance to those we think might not be capable of doing it themselves so that we can encourage more of our neighbors to do it.
Very good point. Thank you. Anything else? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Markowski?
Yes.
Mayor Gorin?
Yes.
Commissioner Hood?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Spataro?
Yes.
Commissioner German?
Yes.
Commissioner Waringo?
Yes.
Commissioner Turnquist?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. It's going to be a very light winter.
Like last winter.
Public hearings, please.
Request for an industrial facilities exemption certificate, Forming Technologies, Planning Economic Development. Summary request. Pursuant to Public Act 198 of 1974 as amended, Forming Technologies LLC, 1885 East Laketon Avenue, has requested the issuance of an industrial facilities tax exemption certificate. The total capital investment will be $70,694 in real property and $561,059 in personal property and will create 21 jobs. This qualifies them for a tax abatement of 12 years on real property and 9 years on personal property. Staff recommendation, approval of the resolution granting an industrial facilities exemption certificate for a term of 12 years for real property and 9 years for personal property.
Mr. Franzik.
Hello. The company has been at their location on East Laketon for about 8 years now. They manufacture plastic industrial packaging, mainly for the auto industry. They're looking at creating 21 new jobs with this investment. We have Dave Hembry here from the company, Forming Technologies, and they've also talked with Dwana Thompson about their equal opportunity employment.
Good. We've seen those statistics in the packet. Thank you very much. Commissioner?
Are those 21 jobs entry-level jobs?
Yes, I believe so. Dave can talk a little bit more about those.
Mr. Hembry, would you like to give us a little thumbnail sketch of your project? Oh, thank you. Yes, at the podium, please, and if you could just give your name and address, sir, and share as much as you'd like.
My name is Dave Hembry. I'm with Forming Technologies, 1885 East Laketon. We have currently, or just recently, purchased a piece of equipment to grow our company. We've had a 38% growth rate since implementing this new piece of equipment. We are already adding new jobs. They are entry level, but they are at a point where they can advance. We are looking also to expand our building, hopefully in the year 2013, because with this new piece of equipment, we will be able to increase our sales even more. So we really appreciate this opportunity to be in Muskegon. You've been a great neighbor, and we really appreciate it.
And we appreciate your continued growth and sharing that new prosperity with us.
We're trying very hard.
We all appreciate that.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Hembry? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Are there any comments from the public on this issue? If not, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing and approve the resolution granting an industrial facilities exemption certificate for a term of 12 years for real property and 9 years for personal property performing technologies.
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Hood and seconded by the Vice Mayor to close the public hearing and approve the resolution granting an industrial facilities exemption certificate for a term of 12 years for real property and 9 years for personal property performing technologies. Is there any discussion or questions from the Commission? If not, roll call, please.
Mayor Gowron,
Yes?
Commissioner Hood,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Spataro,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Waringo,
Yes.
Commissioner Turnquist,
Yes.
Commissioner Markowski.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And again, thank you, Mr. Hembry, for your investment, and good luck for the
Good luck.
future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thanks, you too.
Let's see, where are we? New business? Yes. New busyness, please.
First quarter 2012-2013 budget reforecast finance. Summary of request. At this time, staff is transmitting the first quarter 2012-2013 budget reforecast, which outlines proposed changes to the original budget that have come about as a result of changes in revenue, projections, policy priorities, labor contracts, updated economic conditions, or other factors. This year, there are more changes than normal for the first quarter reforecast. Staff recommendation, approval.
Do we have a motion and a second before we begin the discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I would move that we approve the first quarter 2012-2013 budget reforecast.
Second.
The Vice Mayor has moved and Commissioner Waringo has seconded approval of the first quarter 2012-2013 budget reforecast. Good evening, Mr. Paul.
Good evening, Commissioners. Yeah, the news so far this year is actually pretty good. We've had some ups and downs, but overall it's a positive result. I'll just give you a few highlights for the general fund and maybe touch on a couple other funds. But our audit for fiscal year 12 is now done, and we ended last year better than we thought. We were projecting about a $4.5 million ending fund balance. We're slightly over $5 million, so that's good news. Our revenues, you recall that after the budget was adopted, we settled the tax appeal with BC Cobb, which had two major impacts. Number one, a large refund for the past years, and it also hit our current year budget revenues. So that was a pretty big hit. However, we have had some positive news. Income tax revenues have been growing, not tremendously, but relatively stable for the last 12 to 18 months. Hopefully that continues. So we were able to increase our estimate of income tax revenues for the year. And as well, state shared revenues have actually, the state has given us revised estimates, which are also increased because of more economic activity, higher sales tax collections, that ultimately comes down to benefit us. The best news, however, has been on the expenditure side, where we've made some real progress. Our pension and retiree health care costs, at the time we prepared the budget, we did not have the actuarial valuations in. They came in afterwards, and they were both better than we expected. So we were able to adjust our budget positively there to reflect lower costs for pensions and retiree health care. You also privatized inspections. We had a new contract with Consumers Energy, which led to lower street lighting costs. So we've made significant progress on expenditures and lowered those by over $600,000 projection. So when all is said and done, when we started the year with our new budget, we were projecting about a $575,000 operating deficit, meaning that revenues would be less than expenditures by $575,000. We now think that's down to about $200,000. And the $200,000, frankly, we're estimating income tax revenues at $7.1 million. Last year we collected $7.4 million. So we're being conservative there, but if things are as good as last year and maybe better, we could have a pickup there as well. So it's all good news. Unfortunately, as you're well aware, we have a lot of big obstacles and to overcome in the future. Number one being BC Cobb and the continuing phase out of that as a source of revenue for the city. Number two being the ongoing discussion in Lansing about eliminating personal property taxes and to what extent those will be replaced. So, our goal for the last several years has been to position ourselves to be in as strong a position as we can to deal with those things, and I think we've had some success with that. So, overall, like I say, we can't be unhappy with our results so far this year. In terms of other funds, most other funds are in good shape. One concern is the water fund. You recall that you did raise rates. We lost money last year in the water fund. We raised rates July 1. The prison also reopened, so those are two big factors that should help us out. And the biggest news, of course, is that for the long term, we've really solidified the operation with our long-term contracts with both the North Side and now Norton Shores and Fruitport Township. So things are looking very good there in the long run. Our Downtown Development Authority is one area we need to. We have 6 more years of bond payments before we're done with that, and we've had some tax appeals down there, and so it looks like revenues will not be enough to cover our debt service. So it's possible in the next few years the general fund will have to chip in to help pay those bonds. And of course, the Smart Zone is a similar story where the general fund will probably have to contribute more in the coming years to pay those bonds off. But overall, I think it's a pretty favorable reforecast, and we're pretty happy with things. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions from the commission? I want to take I'm sorry, Vice Mayor.
Well, just a couple. With this Downtown Development Authority, I don't want to assume, that's why I'm asking, but that's taking into account the Renaissance zones coming off?
The Renaissance Zone is actually outside the Downtown Development Authority. It's surrounded by. I'm sorry. The Shaw Walker building.
The mall is, but the Shaw Walker.
The Shaw Walker. That's taking that into account. 6th. Yeah, and there is some good news down there. The Social Security building will add to our taxes down there, but we've had some appeals that have been pretty significant, which take away. So it's going to be, it probably won't be a large amount that we need to contribute, but we'll probably have to contribute some money to pay those bonds off. But again, it's only 6 years. There's finally light at the end of the tunnel, I guess. So.
Amen. The other thing was just, I wanted to point this out because sometimes we get accused of setting things up so our officers can go out and write tickets and raise money. And the change we just made by eliminating the overnight parking ban, if I read the budget correctly, is going to reduce what we expect to get in fines by $35,000. So we did that despite the fact that it should reduce revenue. So not everything we do is to try to chisel a dollar out of people. I just thought we should point that out, since that's been more controversial than I expected.
Well, thank you, Vice Chiseler.
Ouch.
Any other questions for Tim? And Tim, thank you so much for your continued hard work. It's not easy, and we all know that, especially because a lot of the decisions that we make impact real people who have been near and dear to us and have worked with us. But for the sake of the services that we hope to continue to provide for the citizens of this city, thank you for your ongoing hard work and
thank you, Commissioners.
Keeping the checkbook balanced.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If there's no further questions, observations, or questions, roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Spataro?
Yes.
Commissioner German?
Yes.
Commissioner Weingall?
Yes.
Commissioner Turnquist?
Yes.
Commissioner Markowski?
Yes.
Mayor Gowron?
Yes.
Commissioner Hood?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Is there any other business from the commission? If not, we will look for public comment. We do have Ms. Pat Hausman from Angel School. Ms. Hausman, if you'd go to the podium and give your name and your address for the record, please, and share some thoughts on the Burgess Norton issue.
My name is Pat Hausman. I live at 661 Evanston Avenue. We had a long meeting with the residents of Angel School, and I am representing over 200 residents of the community of Angel School District. Most have feel that they've been deceived and lied to for many years. Burgess Norton manufacturer knew they had released toxic and hazardous environmental contaminants into the air, soil, and groundwater in 1975. Burgess Norton knew that their site was contaminated with TCE, PCE, and other subtoxic contaminants from a seepage lagoon on their site. Testing samples from the conventional wells showed that TCE, 100 parts per billion, had impacted the groundwater and migrated into McCray Park and Restlawn Cemetery and our residential neighborhood. We have documents that the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality and the Michigan Department of Natural Resources had knowledge of the contamination in the mid-2000s, and the city of Muskegon had knowledge in 2002. Burgess Norton and the MDEQ performed a remedial action plan to reduce the higher levels of toxic contaminants on the Burgess Norton site. More investigating was done and found that the toxic plume had migrated into the residential neighborhoods traveling north-northwest to Ryerson Creek. We are looking at 34 years of what we believe is a cover-up. Why wasn't there a public meeting, notice, publication, summary of document, administrative record? Part 201, Act 451, requires that a remedial action requires an opportunity for public participation. Why did the city of Muskegon continue to use their wells in McCray Park and Restlawn Cemetery for water and grass? There was a due care rule that applied 324-2017A. Why did it take 34 years to notify the residents of the contaminated properties? Notice must be provided within 45 days required under the R229.5522 and the R229.51017. Why wasn't Burgess Norton fined for the contaminations? The only comment that we received was, "We believe you're safe and we regret the situation exists. We believe Burgess Norton, the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality, and the Michigan Department of Natural Resources, and the City of Muskegon had a disregard for our human life rights and safeties of our community. And you were violated our right to know and devalued our properties, overassessed our market values, and now trying to downplay it for as though it never happened." The residents are all very upset about this, and we plan to go to whatever extremes need be in order to get the answers that we deserve to have on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hausman. Before we all leave out of here this evening, if I could get a copy of that.
Sure.
And I'll work on those questions. Okay. Are there any other members of the public that would like to speak this evening? If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Nothing else, I motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody against? Same sign. We stand adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Good evening, everyone.